Hello everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the 𝐖𝐤𝐞 community. Write how to improve my community, current topics in the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail. Broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello everyone. I never thought that I would turn to such communities for advice, so let's get started. My wife and I have been together for 10 years. We have been married for 7 years. We met at the university. We were each other's first intimate partners. I thought we had a very honest and unique relationship because of that. My wife started working at a new company. From the very beginning, it was difficult for my wife to join the team. I supported my wife as much as I could. Soon she met a group of girls. Most of them were single. My wife was very happy because she found new friends. My wife started going to parties with her colleagues. I was very concerned about the change in my wife's behavior. I tried to talk to my wife about it. I didn't want to restrict my wife's freedom in any way, but it was necessary to come to a compromise. There is less sex in our relationship. My wife told me all the time that she was too tired or not in the mood. Soon a new manager came to their company. This is what my wife started mentioning in our conversations. It got to the point that my wife began to realize how cool he was. She started telling me that this manager was coping with various problems that were not related to work. I was alarmed that my wife was attracted to this man. I didn't hesitate to ask her a question. My wife dismissed my concerns. She said I was going too far. She even started asking if I regret that I didn't have more experience with the female sex, to which I replied, of course not. I swore she was the only one I needed in this universe. After my words, I saw the sadness in my wife's eyes, but she quickly changed the subject. My wife started mentioning open marriages to me. She said that maybe this is a way to revive our marriage with her. I was shocked by what I heard, because my wife has never been that kind of person. She's never been such a sexy liberal. Of course, I refused this offer. I immediately asked my wife if it had anything to do with the new manager. The wife answered very carefully. But when the manager wanted to get to know my wife better, she refused him and regrets that she missed her chance. But at the same time, she didn't want to lose me. My wife was playing with fire, but I had no choice, and we discussed the boundaries of an open relationship. The most important thing was not to have sex with another person in our house. In general, my wife has been going to meetings with other men for a year, possibly practicing one-night stands. I found out that my wife had some kind of relationship with this manager. During this time, I also had several dates, but there were no intimate relationships with girls because it seems to me that this is wrong. I could tell that to my wife, but that wouldn't change my wife's behavior. I felt pure love for my wife, but our marriage was crumbling before my eyes. It was killing me inside. As a result, I went on a date with a beautiful girl. This girl came from Germany. Our evening was very beautiful. This girl was very smart. It was so easy with her. For the first time in such a long time, a smile appeared on my face. As a result, I had even more dates with this girl. The day came when we had sex with this girl. To be honest, I've never had sex like this. I never thought that a girl would be capable of such a thing. She made me feel so wanted. As the months passed, my wife began to doubt me. She didn't like my meetings with my mistress, to which I replied that it was her idea. She was the first to have a relationship with this manager that I'm worried about, to which my wife stood and was silent. She wanted to tell me something, but she couldn't, as if someone was holding her tongue. After that, my wife started coming home earlier to see me and have dinner together. The wife began to clean the house. My wife even started bringing me lunch to work. In the evenings, my wife molested me and initiated intimacy in the bedroom. If my wife hadn't made our marriage open, which is also my fault because I agreed to such an offer. That's all that started happening and what my wife started doing for me. I was very pleased. I almost didn't give in to attempts to persuade me to have sex. I did it in order to end it all. There was a feeling in my soul that my wife had died. She also felt my detachment. I asked my wife what led to such changes in our relationship. Why couldn't she have behaved like this before? What was different? To which my wife replied that by doing this, she wanted to show that she loves me and is happy with me. I don't know why, but I laughed a lot, and I asked, what about her group of friends? What about her lover and the person of the manager? My wife did not answer these questions to me. That day she cried and went to bed. The next day, I come home and see that she is waiting for me. My wife said she wanted to end our marriage. She said the whole experience was a huge mistake. My wife will be very sorry about this. She wanted us to be at the center of our relationship again. I asked her to be honest with me. I asked the question, what inspired her to this idea? As you can imagine, this idea was advised to her by her damn company of new friends. When they discussed an open marriage, this manager supported this lifestyle. He called my wife to live free. Obviously, it turned into a romance. But maybe they had sex after our marriage became open. My wife described these feelings. It's like driving drunk, but the price of this decision has become too high for her. Now, my wife understands that she didn't need this open marriage, that our relationship was truly unique. Now my wife feels that she has killed our marriage. I replied that I might not be able to see her as my wife anymore. It broke my wife. I just sat in silence and listened to her cry. As a result, she fell asleep on my lap. Since then, my wife quit her job and stopped communicating with all her friends. First of all, with this manager, my wife even told me she was ready to spend the rest of her life making amends to me. To be honest, I did not break off a relationship with a girl from Germany. This girl made me feel like a man. I had a feeling that I could challenge the whole world. My wife has not caused me such feelings for a long time. However, I do not know what to do in such a situation. I would like to return the old feelings from my wife. My mistress, in fact, saved me when I was in a bad situation. Please help me. I forgot to say that I already had a marriage counseling session. My doctor seemed like a nice person to me. The doctor really tried to help me. Even though it was our first session, my wife admitted that this group of friends made her wonder if she missed her chance because she's only had one boyfriend in her entire life and she had no other experience, that she had never had adventures like these women. Some of these women are divorced and none of them are married. The therapist said it was bad for our marriage because my wife and these women have different thinking. My wife agreed with this. But then she said it when a new manager started courting her. Some of her new friends advised her to see where this would lead, that it was a chance for my wife to discover something new. My wife felt guilty. When she was told that an open marriage strengthens some relationships, she decided to convince me of this. After I gave my consent, my wife's new adventure began. This adventure was intoxicating for her. She began to think about our relationship, which we had been building for many years. She began to wonder why she was doing this. She said she saw the pain in my eyes. My wife said she would never forgive herself for deciding to experience new sensations. My wife didn't care until she saw the change in me. She thought that my meetings would not lead to anything serious and I would still be with her. But when my mistress began to appear more often in my life, my wife saw that I started to smile. My eyes lit up again. She saw how I responded to text messages and how happy I was when I talked to her on the phone. Then my wife started panicking. My wife again turned to her new friends for advice. One of her friends who was divorced and offered her a free marriage. She said it looks like this girl makes your husband happy. That's when reality dawned on my wife. She started begging her friends to help her get me back. But they answered her, why did she open her marriage at all if she didn't really want it? My wife realized that these people are toxic and pose a threat to our marriage. My wife has a new mission, to bring everything back. I didn't share much with the therapist, but the therapist said that no solution could be reached until I interrupted communication with my mistress. The consultant made another appointment. I saw that it was an interesting case for him. He wanted us to become one of his success stories. I'm sorry, it took me so long to describe it all, but I wanted to tell my story in as much detail as possible. Time passed and I moved into my brother's apartment. All that I have told above was only a small part of what I learned about my wife. At our second consultation, I asked my wife a few questions. My wife hid her intimacy with the manager, but at a certain pressure, my wife cracked. She said he touched her body and convinced her that technically it wasn't cheating. As a result, at first, they just touched each other. In the near future, everything came to sex. It really shocked me. My wife saw the expression on my face. After that, she began to cry a lot. She even had snot. My wife was crying and apologizing to me. The consultant was stunned. My wife got down on her knees and started saying how sorry she was. Then, I asked her why her opinion of the manager had changed. She said this when she began to communicate less with a group of friends. The manager's attitude towards my wife has become even worse. One day she was coming home from work and heard the manager talking to another man about my wife. He said he was surprised at how easily he got her. That my wife is a living example that such girls cannot be trusted. When his colleague asked if he really liked her, he replied that she was just a pleasant diversion, and that he had absolutely no intention parting with his fiancée. He even mentioned that he felt sorry for me. My wife was just a piece of meat for this man. The fact that she betrayed me for the thrill. My wife told me she had suicidal thoughts, that she quit her job the day she felt so bad she even threw up in the parking lot. Then I asked her a question. When she fell in love with him, at that moment she stopped loving me? She said through tears that she never stopped loving me. She thought that she and this manager were in love with each other, but now she realizes how stupid she is. She took my hand and squeezed it so tightly. She told me that she missed the connection that was between us. She even offered to leave the consultation and start from scratch. I told her it wouldn't be fair to my new girlfriend. I need to stop seeing my wife to sort this out. After these words, my wife fell into a deep depression. The wife started crying even harder and started saying something incomprehensible. It took me and the consultant some time to calm my wife down. The consultant convinced my wife that time apart could help us heal. After the consultation, we returned home. I started to pack my remaining things. Someone called my wife via video link. It was one of her former friends. It turned out after my wife quit, my wife's friend started an affair with this manager. Her friend started crying and said she was afraid of pregnancy. My wife's friend told the manager that she was pregnant. He immediately turned away from her. The worst part was that she had a boyfriend with whom she could build a future. But now all is lost. Why she agreed to this novel? The fact is that she was just as interested in experiencing something new. This girl's boyfriend came across an email in which the girl discussed her pregnancy with the manager, to which he replied that it was her own fault, and now she wanted to lure him into a trap. Of course, he left this girl. Why she decided to call my wife? Because she got the impression that my wife managed to save our marriage. This girl was desperately looking for advice. I heard all this, just turned around and left. A little more time passed and my wife's behavior became insane. Before I tell you what happened next, don't forget to leave a comment. Now let's start with my wife's friend who was pregnant, because she lost her boyfriend. She was under a lot of stress and lost her baby. This girl wanted to take revenge on the manager. That's why she contacted me. The girl needed proof. She wanted to tell his wife everything. I agreed to the meeting. When I saw this girl, I realized that she was broken. She had dark circles under her eyes. The girl's face showed that she had not slept well, because the thoughts in her head were chasing her. The girl was glad that I agreed to meet her. She immediately apologized to me for her role in my wife's adventures. I asked this girl what made her go so far. She replied about the loss of her child and her boyfriend, because this guy was the love of her life. The girl said she couldn't look at herself in the mirror without feeling disgusted. This girl clearly hated herself. She wanted to fix the situation somehow. The girl said that she made a scandal at work. After that, there was a split in the team. Perhaps this manager will be fired and blacklisted. After the girl listened to my story, she apologized again and left. I remembered that I still left one thing in my old apartment. I chose the time not to cross paths with my wife, and I went after this thing. By that time, my wife was already at home. What surprised me was that there were a lot of photos of us together on the table. My wife was sitting and looking at these photos. When she noticed me, she started crying again and wanted to hug me, but I gently pushed her aside. My wife offered me lunch, but I said I wasn't hungry. Then she said she wanted to show me something. She took out her phone and showed me the messages. The messages were from her former manager. He threatened my wife for helping to expose him. My wife blacklisted him. She said that by revealing secrets, she gives us a chance to fight. The manager was furious, to which I replied that I was glad that my wife had the courage to do it, but this will not affect our relationship in any way. I also informed her that I was discontinuing marriage counseling. I understand that I should feel elated, but I feel insensitive towards my wife. That's why I want to make an appointment for an individual consultation, or so that you can tell me, friends, what to do next. I also turned to a lawyer on the issue of divorce, just in case. At the moment, I'm not ready to fight for this marriage. By the way, when I was leaving, my wife tried to initiate intimacy. I refused, after which my wife screamed. She asked what my new girlfriend was doing for me, that it makes me happy. She said she was ready to do anything I asked. I told my wife that she should have thought about it earlier, turned around and left. Friends, before I say a word, write a comment and give your unbiased opinion. I think your advice can help this guy. Channel author's advice. It seems to me that your wife has really begun to realize the consequences of her actions. The bad thing is that she is really ready to do anything to fix everything. But it's too late. It's clear that she won't do anything wrong anymore. But it is clear that not everything is so simple. It doesn't work that way. Perhaps she will reflect on her actions and become a better partner. But most likely, it will not be with you. The burned your life to the ground and ruined your marriage. The only thing you can be sure of, that your wife will always remember you and regret what she has lost. This is probably the best reward for what you've been through. I hope that everything will get better in your life. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.